fans. So I joined a gym that lasted for 10 minutes. Then I decided, you know what? I'd always been a huge Bruce Lee fan and loved martial arts. I just couldn't afford it. Back when I was a kid, martial arts classes were like $40 a month, $50 a month, and I couldn't afford that. So I knew I couldn't handle working out at the gym. So I thought, you know what? It's a good time to get into karate or kung fu. And I started doing karate because it was right by my work. I wanted to do, anything Bruce Lee related because I was always a big Bruce Lee fanatic. But the spot that was right by my work, it was in Redondo Beach. It was called Zendaru Karate. And I did that for about 6 months, got a little green stripe on my white belt. I really believed, I was like 22 at the time, and I really believed I was a killing machine. I really did. When someone tells you they've been training 6 months in jiu-jitsu and you're like, ugh, like that's nothing. You know what I mean? Like 6 months is like nothing. But it's actually a lot if you look at it from the standpoint that most people don't train anything at all. You know what I mean? Because if you had to put money on a fight and you knew one guy did jiu-jitsu for 6 months and the other guy did zero jiu-jitsu, you'd have to put your money on the jiu-jitsu guy, right? Like on the street especially. But anyways, while I was doing karate, I saw UFC 2, and that blew me away. I hated Hoist in the beginning because he was beating, he beat Minoki Ichihara. He was a karate guy, and he was just tearing through everybody. But by the time he got to the finals, I was sold. I was a big fan. But the one thing I thought was like, is because he didn't fight a wrestler in UFC 2. So I thought, I wonder if this jiu-jitsu stuff is prehistoric wrestling or super advanced wrestling. I wasn't sure. So I ended up hunting down some jiu-jitsu in my area and ended up at Jean-Jacques, and I found out it wasn't prehistoric wrestling. It was super advanced wrestling. And that was in 94. And from that point on, I've been addicted and hooked.
What was your first class like at Jean-Jacques? Was he the teacher when you went in there? Did he teach your first class?
Belt named David Meyer, and he took me out. I don't know the exact amount, but I say 37 times because it felt like 37 times. he just killed me, and I was sold.
Did you pick Jean-Jacques school randomly? Was that just like the closest school to you, or did you know anything about him? Because he's a legend. What a school to start at.
Well, when I was doing karate, I was doing it was in Redondo Beach, and I was working out there. And then I was a manager of a check cashing store. There was 5 of them. I was one of the managers of a chain of check cashing stores, and that was off Rosecrans and Hawthorne, like in the Gardena area, Redondo Beach, that kind of area. And then the riots hit. That business went down. I almost got killed. I got really close to getting killed in the riots because they raided and broke into and looted all the check cashing stores.
Shit.
That was a prime target. So I barely made it out of there alive. And then from there, I started working at a strip club in the Valley. So now it's hard for me to make it to karate. I'm in the Valley. I was still going out there, but it was hard. And then I saw the UFC, and then I thought, okay, let me quit karate and find a jiu-jitsu school in the Valley now. And I saw this jiu-jitsu school off Magnolia and Laurel Canyon in the Valley. And I went in there. I go, okay, this is it. This is that Hoist Gracie stuff. I walked in there, and it was Jiu-Jitsu. And I didn't know the difference. It was J-U-J-U-J-U-T-S-O. It looked like jiu-jitsu, but it was like some kind of ninjutsu stuff.
You gotta watch them when they don't have that eye. That's a telltale sign right there.
Something's not right. Where's that eye?
Is that the one where they had like the karate gloves and boots and but you could throw and do some stuff like that?
No, they had black gis. I went in there, sat down, and I noticed one. I go, okay, they have black gis, and they never really did any groundwork. And I asked the instructor, and that's on that. It's part of that FloGrappling cartoon. I tell the story in that, so some of you guys probably hearing the story again. But I'm sitting there, and I asked the instructor. I said, hey, how come you guys aren't really on the ground? And he said, oh, you're talking about that Gracie jiu-jitsu stuff. I'm like, isn't it all the same? And he said, no, man, but their cousins, the Machados, they have a school out here in the Valley. He goes, I can give you their info if you want. And I didn't want to be a dick. So I was like, no, 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 I'm cool. I like this. I like this. I like this. But in my head, I was thinking, Machado, Machado, I got it. So I looked it up, but it was hard to find because they weren't listed as Machados. And back then, all you had was Yellow Pages. We didn't have Yellow Pages and 411. You didn't have the internet or anything back then. And so I was like, Machado. I was like, is it Mitch? Machado? I couldn't figure it out. But I did find Carlos Gracie Jr. Jiu-Jitsu. I'm like, oh, that's even better. Forget the Machados. So I went to Carlos Gracie Jr. in Encino, and it was actually them. They went when they first opened up in the U.S. They were going under Carlos Gracie Jr.
Oh yeah.
until Horion, until he started suing any of the Gracie family members that used Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So then everyone had to start using their first name. Like Henzo just said, okay, I'll just call it Henzo Gracie. Screw you. And the Machados were like, fuck it, we'll just call it RCJ Jiu-Jitsu, which is a Machado, which is Higgin, Hodger, RCJ. Higgin, Hodger, J, Johnny, and Jean-Jacques, and then C, Carlos. So RCJ Machado. So that they changed their name to that, which was a blessing in disguise. The fact that Horion copyrighted that name, because then they just established themselves with the Machados, and it didn't really matter in the long run, really.
So Eddie, how long did you train in the gi for? Up until your purple belt, is that right? And what was your decision to move maybe to no gi only? How early did that take place?
I was training in the gi up until I got my black belt, and I never planned on opening up a school or teaching at all. My plan, and I was 100% sure I was going to make it in the music business. I was, as a grown ass man, you know what I mean. Even in even in my 30s, now I pretty much gave up. I still make music, I still produce music, but I have no hope that I'll ever be anything in the music business, but I still enjoy it. But back then, I thought I was going to make it for sure. So opening up a school was never even a thought. But every now and then, I would think, man, if I ever did open up a school in some other dimension, instead of having no gi one night, I would have it no gi 24/7. We would just have no gi every day, and because even back then in the gi, I was known as the no gi guy at Jean-Jacques, because after we did a few rounds with the gi sparring, I would be the one to take off the gi, and I'd find a couple other guys that wanted to do no gi, because I got into jiu-jitsu because of the UFC. Jiu-jitsu didn't get me into the UFC. The UFC got me into jiu-jitsu, so I was kind of weirded out by the gi from day one. I thought I remember Carlos Gracie Jr. He showed up to the Machados and taught a seminar once. And I asked him, I was a white belt, and I said, isn't it a problem that we're training in the gi and we're like yanking and pulling our gi, and in MMA there's no gi? And then he had a great answer, though. He did have a great answer that stuck with me. He said, hey, listen, if a professional gi player can't control your clothing because your de-gripping is so good, how is someone on the streets going to be able to control you by grabbing your clothes? And I thought about that. I'm like, that's true. No dudes will be able to grab my clothes. You de-grip instantly and use it against them. So I like that aspect. I mean, I hate the gi. Like no gi way better. That's all it is. It's like no gi is just a lot more fun for me. Like some people like longboard surfboarding. Some people like shortboarding. Some people do both. You do both. Some people only do one or the other. I was just always the guy that liked no gi. I was just the no gi guy at the gym. And when I opened up my school, nobody that knew me was surprised. They're like, oh, finally you get to a no gi school. It was not a shocker. It was a shocker to the BJJ community, because it appeared that I was basically flipping off the BJJ community by opening up a school no gi. It looks like that. Oh, look, he tapped out Hoyler, and now he's opening up a school no gi. He's disrespecting BJJ. So right away, everyone, there was a big then I had to defend myself. People were like, why are you taking off the gi? And then in my explanations, that turned a lot of people off. They're like, oh man, this guy turned his back on jiu-jitsu. And I was like, actually, I took the gi off. 10th Planet was designed to improve jiu-jitsu in MMA. That was my primary goal. What can I do to improve jiu-jitsu and MMA? And that's all it was. I just tried to improve it. And the Brazilian jiu-jitsu community, they didn't like that too much.
So you got pretty lucky to start with Jean-Jacques. I mean, you started with the ADCC champion as your instructor. What was Jean-Jacques, legend like him, like as an instructor coming up under him?
Oh man, it was perfection. He never, there were some other instructors out there that thought that I wasn't focusing enough on traditional jiu-jitsu, and I was like, from day one, I'm trying to do the twister and the gi as a white belt. You know what I mean? I saw some Ken Shamrock videos. I was doing toe holds in the beginning. It was toe holds, old school sweep, and twisters. That's it. That's all I did. So I had some instructors, not Jean-Jacques, would come up to me and say, listen, you got all that weird stuff down. You got to start learning regular jiu-jitsu because I don't know, And then Jean-Jacques would come in and say, listen, let him do whatever he wants to do. It's, let him explore. So Jean-Jacques he was into me experimenting and doing different things and seeing where different paths led. He helped me. It was like I had an unorthodox style, and all my training partners would get together and huddle around Jean-Jacques and ask for his advice on how to beat me and how to get past certain things I was doing that was unorthodox. He would show them, and then I would go back to him and say, well, now what do I do now? You just showed him how to stuff my game. And then he would show me, give me some suggestions. And so we would just go back and forth. He was playing both sides. But what it did, we weren't pissed or anything. We were grown-ass men. We understood that would only make our game better. Keep coming up with the counters and the counter to the counter to the counter to the counter. So when a new guy would step in, man, he's on the first counter, and we're already on the 10th counter. So, he was, like I said, I wouldn't be where I'm at without Jean-Jacques. The root of my game, the overhook game, comes from him. Nobody has an overhook game like Jean-Jacques. I mean, he was forced to play it because of his hand. He wasn't grabbing the gi as much with his left hand because he doesn't have any fingers. So he was forced to develop a real strong and hyper-developed overhook. Nobody has an overhook like him. And what the sweeps he has off that overhook and everything's based on it. And that's how my game is too. And that comes from him.
Eddie, one of the things I always like listening to you talk about, especially for MMA, is like how, the UFC demonstrated sort of like a trial and error of what was going to work in real fighting, Marco Huas like, oh, okay, you can leg kick. And then like Conan got knocked up on Maurice Smith and you're like, oh, okay, like you could do head kicks now. What was your trial and error in developing your jiu-jitsu style? Because, obviously we known you for the twister. People used to call you the nickname, the Twister, whenever you would do it, and they'd be yelling out Twister. I remember the video of your old matches, So how did the other dimensions of your game kind of develop throughout the years competing in the States and even Brazil?
Man, it wasn't like I set out to develop a style. Like, man, I want to develop my own style. I want this to be unique. And it can't be like anybody else's. That was never, ever the idea. Ever. The idea was real simple. It's about the range in grappling when they're striking. There's only 3 ranges. Way outside, out of range, clinched 100% inside range, and then that in-between range where you can get hit. So for me, it was super basic science. If you were going to develop a jiu-jitsu style for MMA or for when there's strikes, whether it's street fights or combat jiu-jitsu, whatever, you either got to be out of that middle zone because there's strikes that this is about the bottom game. I'm talking about bottom game mainly. Yeah. Top game. Everybody knows you got to get in there past that guard, mount. There was no problem in MMA and the UFC. It was like, oh man, these guys. They have problems passing the guard, and they have problems in the mount, and they have problems once they get the back. That there was no problem. No, they have problem. The jiu-jitsu guys have problems standing, passing. It's in MMA. It's a big problem. No, the problems were all from the guard and the different styles of guard. That's where the problem was. That's the problem, not the top game. Top game didn't need any. Obviously, anything can be taken to the next level, and really, you can make a lot of improvements on the mount. I mean, but that wasn't the main problem, because generally, because for me, it was all about jiu-jitsu winning. I was jiu-jitsu is like, in MMA, style is thicker than blood. So it was all about what can we do to make jiu-jitsu stronger, and so really the problems were the bottom game. You start seeing back in the late '90s, mid to late '90s, black belts, guys that I looked up to, my idols. They're on their back, and there's a wrestler on top of them, and there's no sweeps. There's no sweeps. You never see sweeps. Like, why don't you ever see sweeps in MMA? Isn't that a problem? Isn't that a problem? Where's the sweeps at? And every now and then you see a sweep in MMA, and all the BJJ guys just jump up and down like, "Whoa! You see that sweep? It worked. That sweep worked." But in regular jiu-jitsu and gi jiu-jitsu, you see sweeps like all day, every day. Just sweeps all over the place. But then all of a sudden you don't see them in MMA. So I felt, we had to fix that problem. Where's the sweeps at? Now, all of a sudden, because there's punches, now there's no sweeps? That doesn't make any sense. That means there's a problem. And the problem was very personal to me, because jiu-jitsu has always been number one to me. That's like my favorite football team. I want jiu-jitsu to win. Everything I do isn't for Muay Thai. It isn't for wrestling. It isn't for Sambo. It's for jiu-jitsu. Everything I do is for jiu-jitsu. So, a lot of people get offended. They go, "What's he know? Why should we listen to this guy?" That's fine. I'm just trying. I'm trying my best, and we keep adding or keep evolving at 10th Planet. We just keep trying to get better every day. Just trying to improve. And back to my style. My style, it just became clear. If you're going to have an effective style with punches from the bottom, you have to have a clinching game. There's only 3 ranges: clinch, middle range, and outside. What are you going to do on the outside? You're on your back. So you have no choice but to develop a game, if you're interested in developing a game that works against strikes. Some people aren't interested in that, and that's fine. Some people just want to go to jiu-jitsu because they worked all day and they just want to get a good workout and sweat. They can give a shit about punches. That's fine. Well, there's plenty of jiu-jitsu. I'm not trying to take that away. Keep doing that. I'm not trying to take that away. I am just obsessed with jiu-jitsu that guards that work when there's punches. I'm training Tony. It's very, very important in my life right now that we work on bottom game that's not just defensive, because what do you do to defend against strikes when you're on the bottom? You clinch. Everybody got that down. Everybody clinching. Yeah. When you watch everybody, that's the one thing I noticed in jiu-jitsu. That's the first thing you notice. In the 90s, I'm in the gi, I have a blue belt, white belt, purple belt, that when there's punches, Kenzo, Hickson, hoist, it's full guard, clinch, overhook that right arm. If there's headbutts illegal, do this. Remember that fighting stance? Yeah. Overhook with one arm, and then you got to protect from the headbutt. You got to use your other arm to protect from headbutts. That was a whole different style. Nobody was doing that shit when they're training in the gi. It's a whole different style. So, now there's no headbutts anymore, and I don't think they'll ever come back. So that part of the game, now what do you do with your left arm? Now that you don't have to worry about headbutts, you have to worry about that left punch, or with your right arm, sorry. Left arm, generally overhook, his right arm, and what are you going to do with your right arm? Block the punches, hold the head, block his left bicep. It's a whole different fighting stance. And what happened was everybody was getting into that fighting stance that I just described. It was anti-punch, but they didn't move from there. There was no offense from there. There was no sweeps from there. There was no, every now and then someone would throw up an arm bar. Every now and then you throw up a triangle, but there was really no game there. And the reason why there wasn't any game there, and still to this day, there's hardly no game. Like, who in the UFC is known for their guard? Who? There ain't that many people. There might be like two,
Got Brian Hall.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, who from their back has finished someone, has finished 3 or 4 fights off their back? That's someone who has a real dangerous scar. Like, there isn't that many. There isn't that many. So there should be half the fighters. Half the fighters should have a couple finishes off their back, but there isn't. And it's because of the way people train grappling without punches. And if you're training grappling without punches and you're in stances and entanglements that will get you killed in MMA, that's the problem. That's the problem. Because it's very, very, very hard to play that clinching style offensively without punches, which is weird. How ironic is that? It's harder to play without punches because everybody's clinching. There's not that much opening. Everybody's tied, everybody's framing. But when there's punches, there's a lot of openings to get those clinches. The clinches are actually easier when there's punches. That's weird. That's crazy. But that's the way it goes. That's the way it is. So the problem is having the discipline to play off your back, to play clinching style, to be disciplined and to strategize. It's hard. It's not easy, and most people don't. They just sit back or sit up and sit up guard, or kind of like an open shield and a little bit inverted. You know what I mean? To try to get a clinch in grappling when there's no punches is really hard. So to develop that game is tough. You got to really, really, really want it. And most people don't really want it. You know, I do. I like it. That's why I play it. If I'm not clinching you, it's because you're not letting me clinch you. If I'm on my back and I don't have a good body clinch on you, then that's because you're not letting me. You're framing me. And then there's the game before the clinch. Like, what do you do before the clinch? Then you got to play the 2-on-1 game. You got to play the X guard game, open guard game, invert, and all that. But the only reason I'd be playing that is because I couldn't get my clinch. That's it. Whether it's an overhook, whether it's an underhook, whether it's a homie control clinch, which is over under but face to face, whether it's a cop clinch. There's only so many clinches. Like, there's only so many, maybe 10. There's only so many combinations where your arms could go. Maybe 10, maybe more, 12. I don't know, but there ain't that many. And you got to know where to go from each clinch, and and how to progress. You got to have paths, and that takes a lot of practice. Most people don't ever practice that shit. That's why you still don't ever see it. You never see it. Still, you just don't see it. It's just it's too hard to play. It really is. Easier
Eddie.
when there's punches, though. It's weird. It's easier when there's punches. It's crazy.
Yeah. Eddie, so something that you said in there that I wanted to talk about, you talked about 10th Planet keeps evolving, and I've been watching old ADCCs this week, 99, 2000 and stuff, and it's crazy seeing how far the game has come. Maybe describe a little bit what no-gi jiu-jitsu is like compared to nowadays when you started, and then how things have evolved throughout the time of your focusing on no-gi and running 10th Planet.
Well, when I started, everything that I said and all my philosophies were just theories. You know what I mean? I was always saying, that the gi community was like, no, if you want to get good at no gi, you have to get good at the gi first. It's important if you want to be high level, because look at Abu Dhabi. All the champions are all from the gi. And then I would say, yeah, because everybody trained in the gi. I trained in the gi. There wasn't that many like pure no-gi jiu-jitsu schools. There was MMA schools, but pure jiu-jitsu schools, no MMA, pure no-gi jiu-jitsu schools, there wasn't any. There was like 3. Like, I don't know, couple. I wasn't the first, but there wasn't that many. I don't know, there was 3. David Terrell, Chris Brennan. There was a couple guys, but pure jiu-jitsu, not MMA, pure jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, of course, 99% of schools, they train in the gi, of jiu-jitsu schools, pure jiu-jitsu schools, train in the gi. So that's what you, and then I would say, wait a couple generations of dudes that train primarily no gi, like pure no gi guys. And when I mean pure no gi, I mean you train gi most of the time, because everybody train in the gi sometimes. But and so my philosophies were just theories. I the only way to prove my philosophy is, you have to take a lot of guys, and you got to go at least one generation, and then you see what happens. And guess what? What happened in the last Abu Dhabi? All the stars, most of the stars, not all of them, correction, most of the stars, there were no gi stars. Lachlan, all these guys train in the gi, but what are they? They're not. When you look at their competitive record, gi, no gi, you consider them no gi. Because I consider Gordon Ryan no gi, right? I consider that guy no gi because If the gi makes you better, he barely trained in the gi, so he should be shit. You know what I mean? I didn't train in the gi 10 years, and then I did a rematch with Hoyler. My game should have been shit. If the gi makes you better, training without it will deteriorate your game. I mean, that's common sense. My game should have been weak as shit. And Gordon's game should be weak as shit, but it's not. You know what I mean? Look at Lachlan Giles. He's a good guy, but is he competing? Is he doing crazy stuff in the gi? Look at Craig Jones. Is he really a gi guy? He trained in the gi, but he's making all this noise no gi. It's a big difference. So you see Craig Jones, Gordon Ryan, John Blank. He never trained in the gi. John Blank got into the Final Four. His first. He's been training jiu-jitsu 5 years. You know what I mean? Gio never trained in the gi. He's been his first year in Abu Dhabi when in 2015 he got to the Final Four. He was fighter of the day on that Saturday, that first day. So, so my point is, you're starting to see it now. You're starting to see that if you want to be a no gi superstar, you better primarily train no gi or do what Marcelo Garcia does. Marcelo Garcia strategically trains no gi even though he has a gi on. He limits his attacks as pure lapel attacks. He limits it. He said it. He goes, the best way to be good at both styles is when you train in the gi, use no gi grip so that your style translates smoother. Those who rely on the collar too much, you don't see them translate no gi as well. Those are just facts. I mean, you could think whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Those are just facts. Look what's going on with Abu Dhabi.
Absolutely. So, what about technique-wise? What do you think about the evolution of technique over time? Like we see it goes through different phases and stuff. It seems like it's been heel hook heavy lately. What do you think? You got any idea about like what's coming next, or about how things have developed over time? How it's changed?
Yeah, the new style for sure is that Lachlan Giles style. Man, we're really getting into it. We're infusing his system into 10 Planet like right now. I've had a couple guys who've been playing it for a while. I wanted them to get really good at it. I'm looking at them. I'm not a pure leg locker. I'll go for heel hooks. You know what I mean? I love that Z lock. Thank you, Eddie Cummings. That Z lock shit. That's my shit right there. I'll jump on a Z lock. You guys know what that is?
Nah, what is a Z lock, Eddie?
It's like a game over. It's outside heel hook, but the way the legs are, it's you're stomping on the inside of your foot. Like people do that from 411 too.
Mm-hmm.
But oh man, it's such a great move.
Has
it? But that outside Sengaku that Lachlan Giles is doing. Two of my black belts are really into it. Marvin Castell and Jeremiah Vance, they're all over that, and we're getting. I'm excited about that one. That one's a nice one. That's very cool. Nice one. That outside Sengaku, Lachlan Giles is a bad motherfucker. So yeah, right. I thought leg locks were done. I thought we figured it all out, but no, man. There's more shit. It's so crazy. And then looking at Ryan Hall's new stuff too. Shit. There's so many positions and leg locks and angles and man, it's crazy. It's endless.
So you just brought up a couple names that we wanted to talk about. I had some clips for later. Something we wanted to get in with you today is who are some of the up and comers at 10th Planet? I want to hear about some of because you guys have had a lot of people coming up having success. Who are some of the names right now to look out for in the competition scene for people?
Man, Marvin Castell, you haven't seen the best of him yet, man. The sky's the limit for him. I really, he's has arguably the best work ethic in at HQ. I see him personally all the time, and also Jeremiah Vance. I mean, I think you guys have he's known as a pure rubber guard player, but most people don't know that he's probably better at leg locks than he is at rubber guard now. I mean, and then he's got his whole prison guard game. A brown belt that's coming up strong is Luis Quiones. He's one of my brown belts at HQ. He just fought in Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds. He fought a special match and did very, very well, imposed his game. And he wrestled his whole life too. So Look out for Luis
I
Quiones.
think I met him in Kazakhstan a couple years ago. I think he went and did that
Yes.
UWW World.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a cool
Yeah, he
guy.
does. He's done that twice.
All right. So yeah, we were gonna play some techniques from some of those guys you just mentioned. One of them who I'm really glad to have you on. Is a great excuse to show this. One of the best moments in jiu-jitsu history, technique wise, is when Marvin went to fight to win and hit this Imanari roll. If you want to cue that thing up, Caleb.
Oh yeah. Didn't that get like 100 million views or something?
Yeah, it has over 10 million views, man. I shot this actually, and
Oh, did you?
Yeah, this is my clip, and I went to bed. It was a cool clip, but I didn't know it was gonna take off. I woke up the next morning, and I thought that I'd accidentally put like $1,000 behind it or something in advertising because there were so many views. It just took off, man. It's like the most watched clip on FloGrappling.
Yeah, Marvin's so much better than that now, man. Marvin's rubber guard game, woo! His rubber guard game's insane. Everybody knows him as a leg locker. He's like him and Jeremiah are like, they're there it is. They're like they both have great rubber guards, but Jeremiah's known for rubber guard, not known for leg locks. Marvin's known for leg locks, not known for rubber guard, but they're both super deadly there.
Does Jeremiah also train at HQ?
Yep. He runs 10th Planet Santa Barbara, but he comes down. It's an hour away, hour and a half away. He trains with me twice a week at least, and then when we trade Tony, he's there too. I'm with Jeremiah a lot, so
Gotcha.
he's there's so much to improve on. The game is so huge. We just keep adding.
This kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. These guys, I feel like maybe they're the third wave of 10th Planet athletes, but they're really starting to make an impact on the sport as a whole. Because before them, you have Gio and Richie Martinez as two of like your stalwart competitors. Man, we're just really excited to see, I guess, all the changes. PJ Barch is another guy that comes to mind from the new generation.
So right here, this Imanari roll.
Kyle Bame.
Yeah.
Bame as well.
He's a beast.
Keep your eye on him. Kyle Chambers, Kyle Bame, John Blank. We got another 30 like waiting to jump in. They just keep pouring in.
When did Marvin start doing these Imanari rolls? Because man, that thing's pretty smooth.
Oof, I don't. At least 5 years. About 5 years he's been doing it.
Yeah, it's a thing of beauty, man. It's so smooth. He did it again at ADCC trials. I think like a month later after this, we got another clip of it.
I don't think I could hit that thing on my wife if I drilled it for a month, man. That's just an incredible move to hit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's so fast with it too. He's super fast. Tony Ferguson's real good at those things too.
Oh man,
really good. Oh yeah.
Ricardo, how's your Imanari roll?
I don't think it's as good as Marvin. I don't think it's as good as Marvin Costell's, but I hope we get to see Ferguson do an Imanari on Khabib or something one day.
Oh
That'd
God.
be something else.
Oh, if this thing got 10 million views, imagine what that would get. But
Tony is he'll do anything, and he's not afraid to pull the trigger. You know what I mean? He's the only guy in history, MMA history, to throw 2 spinning elbows in a row in the UFC in a main event. He threw 2 of them in a row, bam, and nailed both of them against Rafael dos Anjos. Tony doesn't hesitate to. That's one of his main weapons, is his ability to fire at will and make things happen without hesitation. That's a huge weapon. Whether it's on the ground, that's why he cuts people up, because when he hits the ground in full guard, he starts the offense first. He starts throwing elbows before the guy on top starts throwing elbows. So the guy on top is forced to play defense. So Tony's always the one to dictate the action. That's one of his most deadly weapons.
Tony notoriously has like a lot of unique training methods. I was just curious, like what's a day-to-day training schedule like with Tony in camp? Is it different things every day? How structured is it? How much input do you have on the structure? He's definitely one of the most interesting athletes in the UFC of all time.
You know what was really the greatest part of this camp was when I started training Tony. It was right after my back surgery, so I think I cornered him for 4 fights. I think 4 or 5 fights, and he was 10th Planet before that. He was Casey Halstead, who's my black belt, who runs 10th Planet Las Vegas. He was Tony's head coach. They had a bit of a disagreement, so then I kind of came in and took over. Um, and but it was right after my back surgery, so I never could roll with Tony. I had to bring in Jeremiah. I bring in Jeremy Fields, who's my black belt, who runs 10 Planet Corona. He comes in, and we had other black belts too, like Eric Cruz would come in, Chai would come in, but mainly over the last couple camps, it's been me, Jeremiah, and Jeremy Fields, and I've just been, coaching and showing and strategizing, not really rolling. You know what I mean? But this camp, finally, I got to roll, and me and Tony have been, it's fun. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy because during this coronavirus craziness, you appreciate a lot of stuff. You begin to appreciate. I appreciate jiu-jitsu more than ever now. Rolling is just it's fun as hell, and getting to roll with Tony is it's crazy. Getting him ready for Khabib, it's insane, and yeah, this. It sucks that this fight fell apart, but this definitely was the funnest I've had in training Tony, because I actually got to get in there and get dirty myself and battle Tony. He's a fucking monster.
Yeah, I
can
bet.
imagine,
He's
man.
a monster, man.
How do you
People don't
think?
know.
How do you think he would do just from a grappling standpoint if he did some grappling super fights? Like, how do you think he would hang with the top people out there in that scene?
He wants it. He's thinking about it. So I'm trying to get him a combat jiu-jitsu match. We'll see if he does it. I don't know if he'll do it. I don't know if the UFC will let him, but he's shown interest in doing a special combat jiu-jitsu match. That would be crazy.
From a pure grappling standpoint, what does Tony like to do on the ground? Does he have a special? Does he like to play bottom? Is he a top player? What does he do when he's mixing it up out there?
He plays that. He plays everything. Everything. He loves leg locks. He loves. Obviously Darce he's probably the greatest Darcer in MMA history. Think of someone better than him, or more known. He probably doesn't have the best Darce ever, but as far as Darce victories in the UFC and big fights, I don't think anybody has more than him. I think he's probably more known for Darces than anybody in MMA history. We keep working that. We keep working that. Darce. Anytime we can. Arm triangle, squeezing nets. His grip is insane. His squeeze is insane. He's strong as shit. People forget he wrestled his whole life. He's a wrestler. That guy wrestled, so he's a fucking animal, man. And he's acrobatic. He's breakdancing. He's flipping. He's doing all sorts of dynamic ground movements. His mobility on the ground is awesome. His inversion ability and Imanari's, and he does everything unorthodox, and he goes straight at you too, like a bull. So yeah, he's a monster on the ground.
I thought I'd gotten over the fight getting canceled, but now I'm even more depressed.
Yeah.
For me, you know what? Really, I look at it as we're just getting better, because we've added this camp. Like you asked, like what do we do in our camp? We got a routine. We go through. For me, no matter what's coming up, we got to work on our defense, our rear naked choke defense, back escapes, mount escapes, side control escapes, arm bar escapes, triangle escapes, Kimura escapes, guillotine escapes. We work escapes every day. Every day we get together, we work escapes. No matter what's coming, no matter who's coming, I just want Tony to have insane defense, and he does. And we just keep working it. That's normal. And and then we just constantly, we got all these landmines that we're set. I can't talk about the landmines we're setting for his opponents, but all we do is just focus on landmines all over the place. Like there's literally 30 places that you're gonna get got. You got to, obviously you get your guard pass and you get mounted. It's all about escapes. There's no landmines there, but can't talk about the offense. But
you guys are setting landmines for Khabib. You guys are setting landmines for Khabib out there.
Exactly. Hey, I'm not. Who knows? Khabib is probably the best ground and pounder ever. Because back in the day, the Riddle for the jiu-jitsu player was, what do we do against a high-level wrestler who puts you on your back and you can't get on top of him? That's the riddle. That was the riddle that I've been trying to solve, is the wrestler that's grounding, pounding you. That's the fucking riddle. You can't get on top of that guy. But now, Khabib is more than that. He's that dude, and he passes the guard, and he mounts, and he takes the back, and he can throw a triangle if he wants. You know what I mean? Fuck. Khabib is a Mark Kerr with guard passing and back attacks. That's the scariest shit ever. Khabib is the hardest puzzle for any jiu-jitsu player to solve in history. That's the hardest one. A ground and pound monster who can pass and take your back. So we're preparing for that.
It's a lot. It's
Eddie,
a lot to take care of.
I got a question, Eddie. I think for people that are like maybe hobbyists or not so well, following the sport or following your top level guys, when they hear 10th Planet, when they think of you, automatically they're thinking rubber guard and stuff like that. But your best guys are all pretty unique. So what do you do to kind of cultivate their individual styles? Like, Gio has his game. A guy like PJ Barch has some really tough wrestling. They all seem to have different, really strong attributes that they bring to the table, but they still follow kind of like the core 10th Planet system. So what are you doing to kind of allow them to express themselves individually through their jiu-jitsu?
Well, when you're trying to create the best possible no-gi style, or even gi style, it really didn't matter. If you're trying to put together the best possible gi style as an instructor, if you forced everyone to play your game and your game only, that wouldn't be good for the team. The team would be easily dissected, and there'd be a lot of holes, because if everyone's playing the same exact game, what about all that other game that's out there? You're not going to be prepared for that game. So in trying to build the best possible team, it's important that everyone plays different games and we all mix it up. So basically in 10th Planet, choose your game. All I'm doing is offering you all these techniques. When you do the warm-ups, if you master the warm-ups, that's a lot of game. That's a lot of game. So then you pick and choose from that game, all the stuff that you're required to remember. You pick and choose, you make your own style. Everybody's like a DJ. We're all playing the same songs, but we're playing in different mixes. And this guy likes playing these songs, and I don't even play those songs. And this guy likes playing those songs, and I don't play those songs either. But he doesn't play a lot of songs I don't play. That's the only way to build the best team, in my opinion. Maybe, who knows? Maybe if everyone played the exact same game, maybe that's better. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. So what I do is I encourage everyone to find their own path, because we need every time you roll with a different person and we switch, you should get a different mix and a different feel. So everyone's used to constantly adapting to different styles, no matter what, and that should benefit you when you're competing. Now, what I do is I believe in my game a lot, because that's why I play it. If I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't play it. So I believe in it 100%. And so what I do is I teach everybody, all my top guys, my game as their backup plan. Like when your game ain't working on a certain dude, you're gonna have all this other shit you could do too. You could always just put a guy in a lockdown and go for an electric chair if you want. At any time, you could switch the strategy, because that's what we're working on. So I make all my guys, whether they play my style as their go-to style or not, they all know my style very well, and it's their backup plan. Some of them, some like Jeremiah Vance. His rubber guard, that's my go-to guard too. So Jeremiah used, instead of using my go-go clinch game as his backup plan, that's his A game. But you don't have to, you know what I mean? And then all my guys that spent all this time on stuff that I didn't spend on, like certain leg locks, like outside Sengaku and all that stuff, I didn't personally spend time on that, but I got guys that did, and then they could show me, and then I learned from them. So I learn just as much from my black belts at HQ as they learn from me. We learn from each other, and if everyone was forced to play my style, like note for note, I think that would lead to a dead end.
So I wanted to play another clip from one of your up-and-comers. I was actually at this tournament. This was the BJ Fanatics Grand Prix in Massachusetts. It was a big night for Kyle Bame when he beat Nicky Rod, he beat Hulk, he beat some good people. If you want to just loop that first round heel hook on Baby Monster, this is an ADCC vet, but maybe just watch this and talk about Kyle a little bit because he's somebody who's really coming up and is beating some big names now.
Yeah, Kyle's awesome. We don't have that many big guys in 10th Planet. I think that has a lot to do because with the fact that the founder, myself, I'm small. I'm a little Mexican. So if I was bigger, I think I'd have a lot more bigger guys, I think. But Kyle is like 220 pounds now. He's strong as shit, been rock climbing his, most of his life. He's super strong, super flexible, high level leg locks, great Kimuras, great back takes, great at rear naked chokes and arm bars. And yeah, he's definitely, as far as competitors go, he's our top big guy, our top guy at 220.
Eddie, when you see someone coming up in the ranks and start making some noise at tournaments, is that an opportunity for them to come up to HQ and train with you? Do other black belts in your system forward guys to you on a regular basis? Is that something that happens with you guys?
Yeah, I got guys I got schools all over the world, and they're constantly coming down to HQ and for a week at a time, a few days at a time. Yeah, I love it. I love when 10 Planet soldiers from around the world come through and stop by so I can see what's going on. And every time a new killer shows up, I love it. I'm like, another one. Damn, another one. Another one. They're just going to keep coming in. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's insane. It really is. It's crazy. Like my guys kick my ass now. I roll with my guys and they fuck me up. So it's a different age now. It's crazy. There's so many killers. My students train specifically to finish fights, and that just breeds killers. You know what I mean? You know.
What do you think the future holds for Kyle? I mean, he's had some big wins. He's beat some ADCC medalists in the last year. What do you think we're going to see out of him in the next couple of years?
I think we're seeing just the beginning of Kyle. He just got his black belt. He got it quick too, just fucking everybody out, So we had to give it to him. He was just doing so good. He won the BJJ Fanatics brown belt tournament. He won the black belt tournament. Uh, he's just on fire, and it's just the beginning. He's got a lot to work on, a lot to work on. But the stuff that he's already good at, man, he could compete with the guys at the top. Especially sub only. Sub only, he could roll with anybody and put anybody in danger. He just keeps getting better and better. This is just the beginning. I consider Kyle Bame number one draft pick, rookie year. Wait 3 or 4 more years and see what happens.
Nice.
Eddie, I got a question. Kyle was originally slated to go against Gordon Ryan at the Third Coast Grapple Fest event that got canceled due to the corona. How do you see the match with him and Gordon playing out? I know they've kind of had some, words on social media and stuff like that, and we see Kyle doing a pretty good job. But how do you see a match with Gordon playing out?
Well, you know who I'm rooting for, Kyle all the way. But you know what? Gordon Ryan. I mean, he's the best right now. I mean, who's trying to challenge him? You know what I mean? He won Abu Dhabi 2 years in a row. What can you say? He's a monster. His technique is flawless. He's crushing. He's killing it. It's a huge challenge for Kyle Bame. And, this probably won't be the only time they go at it. We'll see what happens. We'll see where we're at. The format is huge too. Hopefully they get to do it in EBI rules. That would be nice. Gordon Ryan's great at EBI OT, so it isn't like, if it's EBI OT that Kyle Bame is automatically going to win. It doesn't work that way. Gordon Ryan on your back in EBI OT, that's like Marcelo on your back. You know what I mean? Like, shit. So I never predict fights. In this game, anything can happen. Obviously, I'm pulling for Kyle. I want Kyle to win, but Gordon's a monster. Shit, you know what I mean? He's fucking everybody up. So You know who's gonna win? The fans. The fans.
Eddie,
That's
a
gonna be a
question
great match, man. It's
a
gonna be
question
great.
that's come up a
We'll
lot
see what happens.
in the chat, and now that you've mentioned it, is bringing back the old EBI format. Combat jiu-jitsu is awesome. A lot of people love it, but a lot of people are missing the classic EBI. Are we going to see a return of that when the world goes back to normal?
Yes, we are. But you got to remember, Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds has the same format as EBI. It's 16-man tournament, a 10-minute regulation. The overtime rounds are exactly the same. Same graphic designer, same director, same producer, same owners. The same guy who developed the EBI logo developed the Combat Jiu-Jitsu logo. Everything's the same crew, same athlete coordinator, same everything. The only thing that's different between Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds and EBI is the strikes, is these things. And if you don't jiu-jitsu with strikes, jits with hits, I can't see how anybody would want to who think taking away the strikes would make it better. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like taking the strikes away, everything's the same. Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds has everything EBI has, everything, and then some. Fucking putazos. I love Combat Jiu-Jitsu World. So when people say bring back EBI, we're going to bring back EBI because we established the name and people want to see it, and we are bringing it back. And I think we're going to bring it back in a way where it's done like Abu Dhabi. Like we do all weight categories on a whole weekend, do a whole EBI
cool.
weekend just like Abu Dhabi. That's what I think I want to do, and do it like every 2 years. Exactly. You know what I mean? Let Abu Dhabi run 1 year, and then the next year when they take that year off, we do EBI in the same fashion the whole weekend. We'll see. But one thing that we're going to do is come as soon as all this Corona nonsense is over, is a 16-man tournament, overtime only. It's called Jiu-Jitsu Overtime. So basically it's 16 guys, and you start directly in EBI OT. And the reason why we're calling the show Jiu-Jitsu OT is because that's what EBI OT is. EBI OT is Jiu-Jitsu OT. Rear naked chokes and arm bars are the epitome of Jiu-Jitsu. So that EBI OT may sound crazy, may sound like you're out of your comfort zone or whatever, but to me that's just the essence, the epitome of Jiu-Jitsu. Arm bars and rear naked chokes. So we're gonna try a show with just overtime and see what happens. It could flop, it could suck. I think it's gonna be cool.
Nice.
See who it'd be like, when you think about it, who would be favorite? We're gonna like Keith Krikorian would do great in it. You know what I mean? He'd do
The
awesome.
Planet guy.
Gio,
Yeah, Keith great.
Gio, he crushes an OT. And then you got, the Danaher guys who do great in OT too, because they always practice OT because they were always at EBI. They knew how important the OT is. So if you had like Gary Tonin and Jiu-Jitsu OT, he'd be great. He'd be a favorite for sure. You know what I mean? All the great guys would be the favorites. Like Gordon would be a favorite. Can you imagine Marcelo Garcia doing Jiu-Jitsu OT tournament? He'd be a favorite as well. So the people that would be the favorite are the ones that are really, really good at rear naked chokes, back control, and escapes. So, no busters are going to win that tournament. Trust me.
Did you see
all the high level guys? All the high level guys will win. It's not going to be some blue belt comes in and kicks everyone's ass in OT. Doesn't work like that. It's arm bars and rear naked chokes. Doesn't work that way.
Did you see? I know Marcelo's come up a couple of times. Did you see a week ago, last Friday, he was on this show, and he said he plans on doing ADCC 2023. He said he wants to let his kids get a couple years older and then get a good training camp in and do ADCC one last time. Do you see that?
That would be amazing. That would be awesome, man. It would be great to see, because he has probably the best anti-leg lock game ever. He's a smasher and a crusher. And he's been playing part of the leg lock game pretty much for 10, 15 years. His single-legged X is basically, the root of leg locks. He just doesn't block. So he knows how to deal with that, at least. We'll see how he deals with a high-level leg lock guy. Like how would Marcelo do against Gary Tonin? Maybe he like passes Gary Tonin's guard, puts him in side control, mounts him. JT Torres did that to Gary Tony. Or maybe he gets locked up in leg locks and he's not up to speed with the leg lock game. You know what I mean? And gets caught up in leg locks. You never know. I'd love to see where he stands today because the game has evolved a lot. You know what I mean? I'd be rooting for Marcelo no matter what. No matter who he fought, I'd be rooting for him. I love Marcelo. He's one of the, not only arguably the greatest grappler of all time, but he's super cool, super nice, doesn't talk shit. Every time you see him, it's just all love. You know what I mean? I love everything about Marcelo, man. A lot of my game, a lot of the 10th Planet game, I took directly from him.
Really? Eddie, we're just talking about Marcelo here and possibly seeing Marcelo at 2023 ADCC. You had that big rematch with Hoyler a couple of years ago, and I think a lot of your fans and a lot of jiu-jitsu people around the world would love to see you make a return. I know you just had some issues with your back. What are the chances we'll see you compete again?
I don't know, man. I turn 50 next month. That's the big 5-0. I don't know. I don't know if my body could take a training camp. I started rolling the last couple months, and my shoulder. I had a really bad shoulder injury. Had surgery. Went to Mexico. Put some stem cells in it after surgery because I didn't let it heal properly, so I got all messed up. But you know what? It looks like it feels like the stem cells are working. My shoulder feels pretty good. I
had Chipsa Hospital.
Chipsa Hospital in Tijuana. Get a hold of Ed Clay. It looks like it's been maybe 4 months since the stem cell injections, and I think it's feeling good now. I think it's working. Whether or not I'll compete again, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't.
So I wanted to play another clip of another up-and-coming guy from 10th Planet. This was really impressive when Blank tapped Rustam. Rustam's a monster. He tapped Rustam at ADCC this last year. Maybe just talk a little bit about John Blank and about, I know you were there coaching, about this moment.
Yeah, him like Kyle Bain, very, both been doing jiu-jitsu 5-6 years. And John wrestled in high school. I don't think he wrestled in college, though, but he's got a wrestling background. He's a huge leg locker, rubber guard player, a great Kimura game, just super flexible. He won the first 16-man combat jiu-jitsu tournament that I held. It was at EBI 17. He went through everybody, never even threw a strike. So his jiu-jitsu is perfect for combat jiu-jitsu, too. So he's just beginning. Him and Kyle, they're just starting. They're just starting, man. This is just the beginning for them. They're both, again, I consider both of them rookies, first round draft pick rookies. Still got to develop certain parts of their game. Still got to, just keep working, and just keep training and keep competing. I think we have, we're just getting started with those guys.
Would it be equally an important moment for 10th Planet and you, Eddie, if you had an ADCC champion as much as a USC champion to your name?
Oh, that would be great, for sure. Are you kidding? ADCC? That'd be beautiful, man. That would be great. Elvira Karpinen, she got bronze twice.
Yeah.
So she just won her combat jiu-jitsu debut against Brooke Mayo in my last show. So she's going to start doing combat jiu-jitsu as well. She's one of the best girls on the planet. She could easily end up being our first ADCC gold medal.
What about Grace? How old is Grace now?
Oh, there's Grace. There's, like I said, there's just so many now. Grace is 17 now. She turns 18, I think, May or June or something like that. So she'll probably do the next ADCC, probably. She is incredible. She might be the most technical grappler in the whole system. Maybe she might be. She's just like a little genius violinist. You know what I mean? She's a genius. Her strategy, her composure, she's just so goddamn smart, and her execution, her decision making. She's incredible, man.
You guys could be shaping up to have a hell of a team for ADCC 2021. Then you got John and Kyle, like you said, basically like rookies that are just going to get better. You got Gio is still in the mix. You got
But
a couple girls.
Gio's still improving. Gio
Yeah.
is still improving as well. You know, he's not done at all. He's still improving. Gio hasn't even been training 10 years. I think he's almost at the 10-year mark, maybe. I think he's pretty close, but he's after 10 years is like when you're peaking. When I fought Hoyler, I was at 9 years. You know what I mean? That was a big difference between 2003 Abu Dhabi in our first match, me and Hoyler, and the Metamoris match. There's a big difference in my personal game for sure. I look at that 2003 Abu Dhabi. I look at I look like a blue belt to me, like compared to the stuff that I do now and how much my game has evolved. So, like I said, Gio, we may not have seen the best of Gio yet. Gio's at that 10-year mark, so we're going to start really seeing a lot of guys blossom now.
Eddie, you said you. Sorry to interrupt, but you don't sell yourself short there. You said you look like a blue belt in 2003, but didn't you submit like Gustavo Dantas first round or something? Who was your first round at ADCC 2003?
Yeah, it was Gustavo Dantas. I got him I put him in the truck, but twisters were illegal, so then I just switched to the back and got an RNC on him, and then I beat Hoyler, yes, but then don't forget I got my ass kicked by Leo Vieira the very next round. It was like 1,000-0. He killed me.
That's the super fight there. That's the seed.
Yeah.
Leo Vieira prepared. He actually prepared for me correctly. He correctly prepared for me. He was there at the trials when I won the trials 6 months prior, and at the trials I won most technical fighter of the night. I think that was the only year they gave that out, but I won it. and Leo was kind of concerned. Meanwhile, I was scared to death of him. And the reason why I was is the Abu Dhabi in 2001, he did the 170 pound division, and he went against Jean-Jacques. And Jean-Jacques did he beat his ass on points. Like he whooped him like 9-0 or something like that, or something. He was all over him. But what scared me is he survived Jean-Jacques, and I never survived Jean-Jacques ever. So I'm like, God damn, that guy survived Jean-Jacques. Holy shit, he must be a heart attack. So when I heard for the next Abu Dhabi, Leo Vieira's dropping down to 145, I'm like, what? No, stay at 170. I don't need you in my division. Damn. So he was already in my head, and meanwhile, I had no idea I was in his head, and he had begun preparing for me. He was like, he said it in a magazine after. He said he had been preparing for me. He noticed how in my style, I always pull guard and I invite people to my right side without a shield. And that's a good offer. That's a good offer. I invite you to quarter guard, no shield. I said, no shield. Just come on over on this side. And everybody takes that. Everybody who doesn't know my game, they're like, damn, is this guy for real? He's just going to with no shield? What? So they all fall for it. They all take it. And then you realize real quick that, okay, I fell into a trap. But Leo Vieira, he knew that was a trap. So he didn't go to my right side. If you watch that match, he never passed to my right side. He forced the passing to my weak side. The only guy who does that is Jean-Jacques. He's the only one. Nobody else does that. Now none of my students will take that offer. Now none of my students will take that offer. No shield? Come on, no shield, man. You don't have to do with no shield. And they never take it. They never take it. All drop-ins do. That's how I get dropped. When people drop in, they come in, drop in, and they want to see how they do against me. They always fall right into a lockdown and an electric chair. That's the first thing they fall into. But anyways, Leo, he knew what the trick. So watch that match. He passed to my left a bunch of times. And I don't really have it. Back then, I didn't really have game on that side because nobody went there except for Jean-Jacques. And he would just crush me no matter what. He crushed me passing to my strong side, Jean-Jacques. It didn't really matter. But so the crazy thing about the Leo Vieira thing is after I beat Hoyler, I knew he was next. So that was in the back. I was like, damn, I just won the Super Bowl. And now I got to go out and play another game. And this guy's going to beat me and take my Super Bowl away from me. That's what I thought. It's like I won $1 billion. And then someone's going to take that $1 billion. And they're going, what? You know what I mean? So I walk out where I'm about to go with Leo. and I'm already defeated. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's gonna just take it all away from me. He's gonna ruin the greatest day of my life. So I'm walking out, and he's really worried because coming from his perspective, I tapped out Gustavo Dantes. I got him in a rear naked choke, and then I triangled Hoyler. So he's probably thinking, "Oh shit, this guy is fucking good." I better So he's like sitting down with Comprito. Comprito's next to him, like screaming in his ear. It's loud, and he's sitting down, and Leo Vera is sitting down in lotus position, and like with his eyes closed and doing that Hickson breathing. He's like, and sitting Indian style, and Comprito's in his ear, like yelling some shit in Portuguese. And I'm sure he's saying something like he's just a man. You could beat him. He ain't shit. He's saying something like that. And meanwhile, I'm walking out, looking at them, going, "Oh my God, that is so unnecessary. You're gonna kill me." That's what I was thinking. I go, this guy's like worried about me. I'm worried about him. So I swear, I was just looking at them, going, "Man, that is so unnecessary. Man. You're tripping out over nothing." I walked out there just mentally defeated already.
Something I've always wondered: how did Hoyler end up replacing you in the bronze medal match? Did you get hurt against Leo or something?
I popped a rib halfway through that match, and it was right when I woke up. Right when I woke, he was already up like 1,000-0. There was no way I was gonna win. And halfway through, but I was like kind of going through the first half of the match like in a real listless way, like zero confidence. I just thought, there's no way I could beat this guy. This guy's going to take everything away from me. Mentally, I was like not there. But then halfway through the match, this happened. This happened a lot, blue belt and purple belt. Like, I'm really scared, really cautious, really scared. And then I go, what the fuck am I doing? Let's attack this motherfucker. So I wake up halfway through the match and attack. And that's what I did with Leo. I wouldn't have beat him anyways. When I tell the story, I'm going to make it clear. I wouldn't have beat him anyways. But he passed to my left. And then I just thought, you know what? I'm going to fucking recover, and I'm going to go after him. So I shrimped to my left as hard as I could, and from that shrimp, I popped a rib. So from that point on, I remember, you could see it on the tape too. I go, ah, I went like that. So from that point on, I thought, okay, I'm just not going to get tapped. I'm not going to let this guy tap me. I'm not going to let him tap me. And he puts me in an arm trunk. He flips me over. He takes my back. He flips me over. He does. I put when he flipped me over, when you take that back take where you flip people over, he did that to me. I put that in. That's on the intro of my Mastering the Rubber Guard DVD. Him flipping me. It was just so cool. I had to put it in there. And he flipped me, awesome. And then he went right into an arm triangle, and he had the arm triangle deep. My head was turning purple. It was gonna pop. My head was gonna pop. But I was like, I'm not gonna tap. I'm not gonna tap. I just didn't want to tap. I didn't want to tap. So then he lets go. He lets go of the arm triangle, and I was almost out. And right when he let it go, I didn't want to show any weakness. I was like done. I didn't want to show any. So I stand up, and there's a point where I'm standing up, and it looks like I want to wrestle him, and I'm going to wrestle him. But meanwhile, I'm like, where am I? I was like half asleep. So it was a crazy match. So I woke up in the middle of night, in the middle of the night, and like it was 6 a.m, and my rib was killing me. So I called Guy Nevins, and I said, dude, there's no way I'm going to be able to make that third place match. And that was against Soka. So that's how they called Hoyler in, because I couldn't make it. So I was hurt. So
man, that's a crazy story.
It would have been nice to go against Soka. I think my style would present problems for Soka. I like that match. But Leo Vera would beat my ass every time. That guy's style is just too much for me. He's a fucking legend. That guy crushed me.
So I was gonna the last clip of your students that I pulled up was Jeremiah Vance, someone you've mentioned a couple times. Chase, I think you made this. It's like a highlight of some of his submissions. If you want to just
I got a DM from somebody like, man, you got to put together some clips of Jeremiah Vance because he just kills every one of these horrific looking submissions. Like their body is way out of position. It is awful looking. So this is pretty fun. Maybe you could Eddie describe some of the stuff he's doing here because he's just murdering these guys. He gives up
when
side control a lot.
When it comes to rubber guard, all the top rubber guard players play different rubber guard. Like Ben Eddy plays a different game than I do. It all starts off the same. It starts off with a mission control or a meat hook control, but then from there, everybody goes different ways. They have different strategy. Boogie, he's got his strategy, a lot like mine. Boogie, me and Boogie, we have very similar rubber guards. Me and Ben Eddy, not similar at all. He plays in duo team. He plays some shit I've never done before. And so everyone's doing rubber guards slightly different. They're leaning to slightly different paths. But me and Jeremiah, our games are, when it comes to 3/4 rubber guard, which means you're not in full guard. And when it comes to 3/4 rubber guard, that's all the go-go game. Our games are very, very, very similar. We do the same things. When it comes to full guard, then things change. It's a whole different game. Full guard, full rubber guard, and 3/4 rubber guard, two different games, two totally different games. You could mix and match, but basically there's two different mindsets. Jeremiah, his flexibility ain't that great. It ain't that great. So for people that have flexibility issues, playing 3/4 rubber guard is your best bet. Because you just play it on your side. You don't need as much flexibility. But I'll tell you what, he don't have that much flexibility, but he's the best at throwing them flying go-go clinches. He does it all in one move. Bam! I think it was in one of those clips, but his rubber guard is easily it's always in the conversation when you're talking about the most dangerous guard in grappling, for sure. I mean, most dangerous guard in grappling, you got to throw Jeremiah in there, man. He's got the data. He's got the evidence.
Look at this. All the proof. Look at this one right here. He's bottom side control. He locks up poses. Yeah.
That's the fly trap. That's the fly trap.
Put the guy to sleep right there.
That guy's out.
We've got
he does that one all the time too.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is when everybody's basically, if everyone had the same amount of time to work on their jiu-jitsu, depending on what you work on, some guys might, when it comes to guard work, they're working mostly guard retention stuff, maybe a little bit of offense here and there, but it's mostly guard retention. Look for sweeps. Don't let them pass. Look for a little sweep here. Don't let them pass. Guard retention's number one. And you spend all your time doing that, in 6 years, your guard's going to be very, very hard to pass. Now, if you take that same time and instead of always think about guard retention, you're thinking about developing a rubber guard and entries to rubber guard and attacking from rubber guard. Now, after 6 years, your guard retention's going to, or your rubber guard's going to be high level if you focused on it for 6 years. But your guard retention isn't going to be as good as the guy that's been focusing on that solely. That makes sense, right? So you have two different guys. One guy, very hard guard to pass, but he doesn't really have a rubber guard. And then you have another guy who has a dangerous rubber guard, but his guard is easier to pass, right? Now, the guy with the rubber guard eventually will have a hard guard to pass. He has no choice in the matter. He has to work on his guard retention no matter what he's working on. He's forced to work on it. So eventually, his guard retention will catch up to his rubber guard. And then when that happens, bam, you got a dude that you don't want to be on top of. He pulls guard, you're going to back up. You know what I mean? As opposed to the guy who worked on guard retention first, that guy will probably never develop a rubber guard. Because to develop rubber guard, he's got to not play that guard retention style that he's so used to. And then he's going to get his guard passed, and he's not going to like that. And he might work on a rubber guard a little bit, but he's like, fuck that. I'd rather not get my guard passed. So he doesn't work on it. That's why you have so many guys out there that don't. It's very hard to develop a rubber guard after you already have your black belt. It's tough because you have to change your game. But this is what I tell all the kids. All the kids, white belts, I go, just do rubber guard. That's it. Just forget about your guard passing. Don't get mad. Your guard's going to get passed. You're going to get mounted. Don't worry about that. But little by little, you're working on your mount escapes. You're working on your side control escapes. Then you start getting better and better. And then once you're going to be forced to fix that guard retention. You're going to be forced to fix that. You have to, no matter what. And when that happens, boom, your rubber guard didn't go anywhere. It's still right there. Now you have the force of two. Because so it's kind of, it's a mind fuck. You work on your rubber guard first. Who cares if they pass your guard? You're just get into it, develop all the, have it in your blood, and then work on your guard retention later. I know that sounds backwards. I know it does, but that's the only way you're going to get a high-level rubber guard. That's the only way is if you get right into it, you get obsessed with it, and you're not worried about your guard getting passed when you're trying to set up a rubber guard. Because once you develop that guard retention and the guard recovery skills, then boom, that's when you have a nuclear bomb for a guard.
Eddie, so we've been having a little routine lately. The guest from the show before asked a question for the person who's on the next day. So we had Wagner and Cyborg on yesterday. And Wagner's question for you was he wants to know if you think there's going to be another TKO in combat jiu-jitsu.
Like his.
Like his.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he missed it. Yeah, we've had a couple. He just hasn't been watching. He had a couple. He had one in Mexico. He had one in Mexico with a lot of blood. It was way worse than his. I'm sorry, Wagner. You know I love you, dog. You know I love you, but the one in Mexico, man, we had a TKO, and I was roughing it because in Mexico there's no commission. So we flew Mike Beltran out there because we wanted as commission-y as possible. You know what I mean? But he needed a little break, so I reffed one match. Usually I don't ref combat jiu-jitsu because the commission has to do that. You have to be a legit ref. But I ref one match. It's in Mexico, big deal. And that was the bloodiest fight ever. It was crazy. Yeah, we've had I think 4 TKOs now.
So, and then to follow it up for our next guest Monday is Gary Tonin and Gordon Ryan. So if you could come up with some sort of question to ask those guys when they come on Monday.
Oh man. What do they think of Lachlan Giles' outside Sengaku game?
All right,
Perfect.
fair enough.
Love
I'm
it.
really interested to hear what they have to say about that for sure.
Maybe, and you know what? Maybe they were playing it first. I don't know. I don't really know the history of that style. But man, I love it, man. It's a great style. I heard maybe Jason Rao. Someone said maybe Jason Rao was playing that first. I'm not sure, but I'd like to know the origins of that game.
Very cool. Yeah, Jason Rao's a name that's come up a lot on this podcast as someone that's just a murderer in the gym, taps a lot of guys.
Oh yeah. He's he's just starting to. I look at Jason Rao just like Kyle Bain and like John Blank. We're going to hear a lot about Jason Rao. That guy's super talented. And Nick Ronan, too. Super talented. There's a lot of young guys coming up all over the place, man. It's getting crazy. There's just so many good guys.
Well, I think that just about wraps us up, Eddie. We got a few minutes here left. If you want to close out the show, maybe say something for your fans, people watching at home, send them some well wishes. This is your chance here.
Oh, man, this whole Corona thing sucks really bad. Especially for jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? I know all you guys out there just want to get back on the mats and get back to training. I think when this is all said and done, I think we're going to look back at this as a blessing in disguise. It's going to really make us realize and focus on what's important in life. So just hang in there. Hopefully this is over real soon and we can just get back to work, get back to rolling. I'm praying. I'm hoping.
Awesome, man.
Thank you guys for supporting. Appreciate
Of
that.
course. It was a pleasure. If there's
Yeah,
anything else,
A lot of fun, man. Thanks a lot for coming on, Eddie.
we'll go on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you guys soon.
Everybody watching at
See ya.
home, we got a big week next week. We got
Got Gordon and Gary
Gordon
on
and
Monday.
Gary.
Bia Mosquita,
Bia Mosquita on Tuesday, Wednesday Perkisa and Buchecha,
Galvao and JT Torres.
Galvao and JT Torres on Thursday. Friday we got who is it? Orlando Sanchez.
Orlando Sanchez.
Yeah,
Big
all right,
O's
cool.
calling in. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Had a great time with Eddie there. And we'll see you next week on the next episode of Who's Number One. Ciao.